will there be a chance for Alvin to be in a one championship circle one day?
Oh, that's Chatri.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to S3 Strike Sport, where strikes define sports. I'm here with Alvin, an entrepreneur, founder of Singapore BJJ Open, a top-tier grappling competition in Singapore and Southeast Asia, and now a contestant in the Apprentice One Championship Edition, which is premiered on AXN on February 18. Hi, Alvin. Welcome.
Hi. Happy to be on Strike Sports. I'm also a writer, don't forget.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So an excellent writer. We're going to talk about that very soon.
It felt like a weight off my shoulders. So the show was really insane, right? So if you think about it, it's like a couple of months long, and I was there for a long time. It was a big thing in my life, and there was a lot of anxiety in hiding this. I couldn't tell anybody about it. So I train, right? So people always ask me, so are you in the Apprentice? Like, what's going on? Did you see GSP? And I'm like, I can't say anything. Like, just stay tuned. So it was a weight off my shoulders for sure. There was a lot of. I don't like to keep secrets, so there was a lot of trepidation. But now that it's out, it's awesome. It's a huge load off my shoulders, and I can finally talk about it freely. I saw one release. I mean, they're looking for contestants, right? So at a point of time, it was before, I think it was right after the coronavirus, and I was let's go to the business. So I am running Singapore Jiu-Jitsu Open. So it's a tournament in Singapore. It's the #1 grappling tournament in Singapore. So I couldn't do any tournaments at all because of the coronavirus. Mm-hmm. And I thought, my whole thing has always been about to grow the Singapore grassroots scene. I'm sure you can relate, having strike sports and things like this. So I thought I would make a good addition to the team because I was already training here in Singapore even before one championship started. And way back in the day, this was 2010, there was nothing at all in the scene, all right? Nobody knew what MMA was. They thought it was like WWE, right? So when it used to be called One Fighting Championship, had their first event in 2011, I was there. And the first couple of events, and it was massive. It wasn't like the small local shows. It was in Singapore Indoor Stadium. It was packed. They had Bas Rutten in. And I could see finally something was happening in the local scene. Back then, fighters had to go to Malaysia, go to Indonesia and fight. Like Singapore fighters had to travel. It was 3 calls, I believe. Oh, okay. Yes, it was 3 calls. I got contacted, and then I passed the first one, I passed the second one, and finally I got to talk to Chatri, right? And I just got done with a meeting. So I was in this office place, and I had a call with Chatri in like 5 minutes. And because the meeting ended late. And I said to the boss of the place, hey, do you have a meeting room I can use? Because I got a call with Chatri in 5 minutes. And he was like, oh shit, yeah, we'll give you a room and everything. So I literally went to the room. There was this huge whiteboard at the back. And in 5 minutes, it just broke down like a mind map of everything. So I was thinking, what's Chatri gonna ask me? You know? And I had like answers to everything, right? And they had to prep Chatri and everything. So thankfully the call started like 20 minutes later. So I had this huge mind map of like, if Chatri asked me this, I'm gonna say that. So I had everything ready. So when they finally put Chatri on, so it was literally like this, right? And Chatri asked me this one question. He was like, hey Alvin, so what makes you think you, among all the thousands of applicants, deserve to be on the show? So I just gave him my pitch, right? So I was like, I've been doing martial arts and and I'm the only one that's been running events here, aside from one, of course, but at a grassroots level. And I just spoke for like 1 minute straight. And he just looked at me and he said, Alvin, what if I tell you this is not an interview? You're in the show. And at that moment, I just was like, I couldn't control my face. I was just like, I was literally like this. Thank you, I don't know what to say, because I had prepared this whole like 20-25 minute, like 10,000 word thing.
So you
And
thought
just told me I was
it's a test of first interview, secondary, and the last one is the big major examination with Mr. Chatri itself, and you have to prepare everything.
It was super cool. I couldn't control my face. I was just smiling. I'm sure they have the video somewhere. I was just like, thank you so much.
Take care, buddy.
Take care. Holy shit. Thank you, Chatri. See you. And then he went like, congratulations, represent your country well. It's starting in like 6 weeks or something like that. Just thank you. I'll do my best. On the show, so when the cameras were rolling, so we were kept, all the contestants were kept away from Chatri. We weren't allowed to speak to him, and he only appeared when the cameras were on, right? So he was like boss. He was like very stern, and if you see the trailer, he was like banging the table, yelling. All that really happened, right? All that really happened. It was very, very intense. The best word I can describe the experience was intense. And Chatri is an intense guy. So the first time we saw him on the show, it was where we were circled around him, and he was just so it was a crazy place. It was like a warehouse. First time we saw him, all of us were surrounding him, and he just filmed him doing a shot, just turning around and just staring at all of us. It's like this. So he has this like look in his eyes.
Yes.
He has this like light in his eyes, right? And everybody knows who he is, right? He's the boss. He's the one that gets to decide who's gonna stay on. And they had to reshoot it because he was too intense. It was like he was staring us down like it was a fight. You know, he was literally
It's natural presence already.
They had this like energy radiating out from him. And the director had to like, Chatri, just tone it down like 50%. Yeah, so he's an intense guy, man. On the show, he's intense, but we got to speak with him a little bit after the whole thing, and he's a nice guy. He's a by nice guy, I don't mean like he's a cat without claws. He's a nice guy, but he's friendly, you know, he talks to you, but he's very intense. He's an intense guy. Interesting and intense guy. Yes, definitely yes. So you did a research, bro. You read that article?
Yes, I did. I told you I'm intrigued. If you got an autobiography of yourself, I will first person to buy it. Tell you that.
Thank you, bro. Going back to the no corporate job and things like this. This is true, like, because I was in university, how I started my business was I needed to pay for university, right? Because it was private, it was expensive, failed my O-levels, so I had to go private, right? And I started teaching boxing on the side. Like 2-3 times a week, I would go to this gym near the school, and I would teach boxing. So I became friends with the boss of the gym, so he began to drive me home. We began having these long talks, and one day I just went like, bro, like you have this huge mat space. So it's not Evolve big, but it's like a space. It's all matted up. It's a nice place. And I was like, what do you do on the weekends when nobody's training? And he's like, I don't do anything, bro. And back then, there was this tournament in Singapore called Grapple Asia.
Yes,
they were the biggest.
I saw some of your matches there.
Yeah, they were the biggest back then, bro. So I used to work for them on a freelance basis, all right? And they paid me like $50 or like $70. I did it more for the community than for the $50, right? So I used to referee, I used to be behind, I used to do all the saikang basically.
Yes. Start from the bottom.
So I had experience doing these tournaments and for about 2 years. And I was like, I could run a tournament here, like a small one, just so your mat space is not wasted, promote the gym. And he was so excited in the car, you know, he was driving me home and he was like, yeah, let's do this, blah, blah. And then when I got out of the car, I realized, oh shit, now I have to do this. Because like, this guy is like, I can't just be talking nonsense, because like, he's my boss. And then like, I just...
You got to walk the walk.
Yeah, man. So that's how the tournament got started. And I just threw myself into that. It became a huge success, bigger than we ever anticipated. The first tournament, we thought we would have like 40 competitors. We ended up having more than 70. And then the next one, we had like hundreds, and it just kept growing and growing. So I dropped out of university. I put it on pause for a while. And just my whole life, my whole adult working life, I've just been running events and martial arts events. I host seminars. So I've never had a real corporate job. I've had a lot of gigs and things like this, but nothing like this. And I was never one to really want to work for a corporate job at this point in my life anyway, because I like the freedom, I like being able to do my own thing. But this is special, not because of the $250,000, which is a lot of money, but because it's something to do with martial arts and growing martial arts in Singapore. And this is something I've always been passionate about. And I'm not just saying this because I'm on the show. I did this way before the show started, right? Hosting events, hosting seminars, traveling to and fro for fights, cornering my friends. So this is definitely a big one. So if I had to work a corporate job, I would rather work for one championship than any other company.
You have to work like something that you love.
Yes,
Even
exactly.
even though it's a corporate job, that's something you don't like, but it's the industry that you are in. You know, it's a ladder to the top. You know, you have to start somewhere. Am I right?
100%. And this is a blessing and a curse. Like, I absolutely cannot do something that I hate. I have to do things that I love. I don't know whether it's just me, whether it's ADHD or something. There's always been a factor since I was a childhood. I have to do something that I love. If I hate it, like, I will suck at it. It will show. Like, I was like, I'm good at this, right? But when I was in the army, I was terrible. Like, I was just a shitty soldier, but because I wasn't interested, right?
Yeah. True.
I have to do something that I love. Yes, it's still going on. It's still going on. So right after people are allowed to travel, right after we are allowed to have events, it's still going on 100%. You're supposed to be May 2nd. So this is such a crazy point in my life. So March, we had Singapore Jiu-Jitsu Open, either 5 or 6. Oh my God, I can't even remember. And it was a huge event. And right after that, everything was shut down. Everybody had to stay home and everything, right? So May 2nd.
You were supposed to fight at the same date as well, right? Am I correct?
I was supposed to fight on the same day. Bro, you really did a research.
Yeah, I saw the podcast with you with, what's the guy's name?
Luke.
Is it the bald guy? Is it?
This bald white guy, right?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, you're supposed to have your championship fight against this Penang guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so and on the subject on that, I also read that because you love at the first time when you start your MMA career, you have 3 wins and 1 loss. Am I correct? During that time, currently 3 wins, 1 loss. At that time, you stopped after you saw a podcast from Joe Rogan regarding Dominic Cruz. You saying his life about MMA is not as pretty as people think, of depression, the injuries and everything. And from there, you say that I can see you now. You semi-retired because you're still fighting, but you during that time when you post your blog, you say that you have this passion of writing instead of fighting. May I say during when you see the podcast from Dominic Cruz, is it part of it because also it reminds you of your childhood, or is it because is it closer to home to you when you saw that podcast?
Yeah, it goes even deeper than that, because at that point of time, so going back to when I first got injured and I was fighting, so I never had like a real Singaporean upbringing, right? Like go to school, pass this, go to poly or JC, and then go to uni, right? So I used to, even before fighting, I was competing in jiu-jitsu. So from the age of 17 to 20, all I did was fly around Southeast Asia, compete in jiu-jitsu. So I won a lot of medals at white and blue belt. And then being the kind of guy that I am, I just thought, okay, what's next? So like, okay, I win all these medals, and obviously I can go to America, win the worlds and things like this. But I've always been interested in MMA. So I always trained jiu-jitsu in a way that is like street fight or like MMA style, right? So I go for the submissions. I don't play like funny lapel guards for points. So I had my first MMA fight when I was 19 years old in Johor. So like I said, back then people had to fly to Johor or travel to Johor or wherever to fight. So 19 I had my first fight. So in between 19 to 20, I had 3 fights, and this was when I was in NS. So 3 fights,
Impressive.
all in Malaysia. It was Johor, Penang, and KL. So I won those 3 fights, and then I had a chance to fight in Singapore at SFC against this guy called ZT. So ZT is a really, really good guy. He's a pretty big amateur now, actually. And I lost that fight because I couldn't train almost at all. I was in the Air Force, and it was so crazy because I remember my mindset back then was like, it's almost like a drug. Like fighting is almost like a drug. Like Dominic Cruz was saying, right? Especially if you grew up in like Dominic, single parent family and all this kind of stuff. So I had kind of a similar upbringing. So people always think you're not gonna be anything in your life, like all this kind of stuff. But so when you give somebody a young kid who's never had any of this, and you suddenly give him gold medals, and you raise his hand in the middle of the ring, and there's like 100 people clapping for you. This is a drug. This is like wow.
Do you want more? Do you want more? You want that?
Yeah,
that
more. Like, I always look forward to after winning, and I would have like group photos with my teammates, put them on Instagram or Facebook, and people would be like, "Congrats, man, you're the champ." I never forgot the first time I won a gold medal. It was my second tournament in Jiu-Jitsu. It was in Penang. I went back to my home gym, and everybody there, and the moment I stepped in the gym, people started clapping and like, "Hey, champ, you're back." And this is 17 years old, so going from somebody who was a failure back then, like no academic success, nothing, to people in their 30s and 40s calling you champion. So that was like, oh shit, I'm the champ now. So you want more and more and more of that. So Mike Tyson also spoke about this a lot because he was the youngest heavyweight champion of the world, right? And he's like, glory is the greatest drug. You can't. It's not about the money. It's about the lifestyle and the accolades, right? But then I went to the dark side, where it just became too much. Where I wasn't doing it because I loved it, it's because I love what people say about me.
You love the praise, the compliments given to you.
Yeah. So, and I can only say this after a few years removed from it, right? But back then, as a 20-year-old, you don't know. You're just like, this is what I do. Like, I love it. It just started getting too much, and I was fighting. Even though I wasn't in shape, I was in the Air Force. It was literally, I would work from 8 to 5:30, and the camp was in Lim Chu Kang, so I had to travel 2 hours to the gym, train at the gym for 2 hours, and there would be nobody in the gym because it was evening time. Everybody went home, right? And that was how I prepped for the fight that I lost. And it got so bad, I almost didn't make weight for the fight, and this has never happened. I just wasn't in shape. I was like kind of skinny fat.
Yes.
But I was like, it's okay, I'm good, I can do this. I'll find a way to win. So I lost. And I got knocked out. Yeah. First time I fought in Singapore, I got knocked out in front of my dad, in front of family, in front of friends who bought tickets to support. And I was talking a mad amount of shit before the fight. It was on like Facebook and everything. And I kind of knew ZT. I competed against him in Jiu-Jitsu before, so it's not like we didn't know each other. So I talked a mad amount of shit because I wanted to sell tickets. I wanted to show that there could be a star in Singapore, they could be out there, and but of course I failed. It's like Conor talking a lot of shit and getting choked by a couple people.
Yes.
So I got knocked out by a body shot, and that's not the worst thing. The worst thing is getting injured in the fight. So if you watch the fight, there's this small moment where I throw a right hand, and he's southpaw, so he throws a left straight. So my shoulder just goes like this, and I hurt my shoulder right away, and I couldn't fight. It was kind of dangling, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna jog around, wait it out. I'm just gonna throw some kicks, and I couldn't recover from that. And the worst thing is, this shoulder injury kept happening again, and from the dumbest things. So I was working at Grapple Asia. I had to throw a T-shirt to the crowd. And I threw a T-shirt to the crowd. My shoulder came out. I couldn't train. It literally would just come out and go back in. In medical terms, it's called a subluxation. So and it's painful. I couldn't train. I couldn't even do a push-up. So going from training every day to that was what made me realize that, wow, like without this fighting thing, without this thing that I put over myself, who am I? Like I can't. And as an athlete, this is the wake-up call, because I'm 25 now. I used to be 20. How long can you do this? I can fight until I'm 30, 35, 40. There's a point of time that I have to stop. Right? I can't do this forever. And that was when I heard the Dominic Cruz thing, and he said something that really resonated with me. And he was like I was just exercising away my demons. I never confronted them. Like, you feel good after you exercise, you have all your bros around, you feel good, you have all this. But because Dominic Cruz was famous for being injured all the time. When he tore his ACL, there was nothing he could do. He couldn't pursue this drug anymore. So he was trapped inside his own body with his own mind. And he just went like, wow, what am I going to do after this is all over? And so that was a very scary and dark moment in my life. But that was when I discovered my passion for writing, and a little bit, not so much, but entrepreneurship. It's something that I can do and keep getting better at forever. So you look at all the great writers, it's not like fighting where you're 35, you're 40, you peak and you have to stop, right? A lot of great writers write in their 50s, 60s, Ernest Hemingway, Stephen King. And I thought, wow, this is something that I could get better at forever. and this is where I am at now. So yeah, thanks for doing your research, man. That was a very good question.
I don't know what in the show, but I mean, I didn't hit anybody or just
No.
yell anything, but I was talk a little bit, look, I don't trash talk. Like, I speak the truth from where I see it. So yeah, there's definitely a bit of drama involved on my end. I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but yeah, there's definitely a bit of drama on my end.
Okay, just describe yourself in one word. In the Apprentice, if people to take notice on you, describe one word that describe you in the Apprentice.
I was passionate. I've been asked this for the show as well. I'm a very passionate guy. I'm not the most skilled, not the most smart, not the most whatever, but I'm very passionate. And so whatever I love, I'll give 100%. Doesn't matter if I'm not the best at it. I dedicate my life to it. So I'm writing right now. I moved to Kyrgyzstan for a month just to write. So I'm that kind of guy. And yeah, I'm a very passionate guy. I'll give 100% to whatever I love. And what advice I would give is to not follow the crowd, follow your heart. So, wow, it's so corny now, but it sounds better in my head. Look, you are a product of everybody you have around you and your family's upbringing and yada, yada, yada. So people will always say what they want for you, right? So in Singapore, you have the classic, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, get a stable job, iron rifle. And for some people, that's the perfect thing. Like, they like the stability, they love it. For other people, they might want to fight, or they might want to do this, they might want to be an entrepreneur. So if you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur or do something out of the norm, you wanna ride, you wanna travel to Malaysia to fight, follow your heart, do it. Don't for a long period of my time, I was very bothered by people who said I couldn't do it, I shouldn't do it, like this is wrong for me. But nobody knows you better than you know yourself. So follow your heart, do what you always want to do. Because when you're 40, 50, 60 years old, you don't want to look back and be like, wow, I should have done this.
Yeah, regret it.
Wait for you to fight, bro. So
Yeah.
give it your best shot. Do what you want to do. And I want to end on this. The number one regret of dying. So this is like a self-help thing. There was a nurse who worked in pediatric care. So she took care of people who were dying, right?
Mm-mm.
And so she asked a lot of questions and she wrote a book about it. So the top 7 regrets of the dying, the number one is not being themselves. So not living life the way they should have lived. So we're all gonna die someday. You're gonna die, I'm gonna die. This Apprentice thing is gonna be a footnote in this whole journey. Always do what you wanna do, give it your best, and no regrets. Make it so that when you're dying, you're lying in bed, you could be like, wow, holy shit, this is right. Like I did this Apprentice thing, I started a business I always wanted to start. And that's it, do what you wanna do.
Will there be a chance for Alvin to be in a one championship circle one day?
Holy shit! Ask Chatri. Look, my goals for fighting are I want to win belts. So I want to win like 2 or 3 amateur belts. And as a professional, I don't know. My whole thing right now is I'm 25, right? I still can fight, but I don't want to make a career out of fighting anymore. When I was 20, like this one, I want to fight UFC. Like that was it, right? But it sort of changed a bit as I got older. Now I realize that it wasn't as much about fighting for me, because fighting is a very selfish thing to do. And this is something that people don't want to hear. But it is, you have to focus on yourself, you can't care about other people. But for me, I've always been about, I didn't even like, as you were saying earlier, I didn't even like fighting as much as I liked being surrounded by the camaraderie and having this community around. So it's something I never had when I was a kid. So my whole thing was, I actually liked growing community more than I actually like the fighting itself. I don't like to hurt people, I don't like to kick them or anything. You know? I'm the nicest sparring partner you'll find. So I want to win some belts for my legacy and something for my kids to look back upon, like a physical thing, like, hey, Papa won this. But as for fighting in one championship, I can't say no. I can't say yes. I'll do it if I have the chance, but I won't make a career out of it.